Today is October 21st, 2017. It is 1:40 p.m. This is Holly Glore representing the City of Savannah's Research Library and Municipal Archives. I am interviewing Polly Stramm for the City of Savannah's Ardmore History Roundup Day project. We are conducting this interview at the historic Gould Cottage, now part of the Habersham School. Today we will be discussing the history of the Ardmore neighborhood and the surrounding community. Thank you for joining us today, Mrs. Stramm.
You're welcome.
Let's start by having you tell us your full name.
My full name is Polly Powers Stramm. I grew up just down the street.
Okay, thank you. When were you born?
I was born October 16th, 1954.
Where were you born?
I was born at St. Joseph's Hospital, the old hospital downtown in Savannah.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up at 623 East 54th Street, which I found out is considered to be Chatham Terrace, which was news to me today.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Charles Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I went to First Christian Kindergarten on Victory Drive, then to Charles Ellis from 1st through 7th grades, then Wilder Junior High School in the 8th and 9th grades, and then Savannah High School, and then University of Georgia.
All right. Where do you live now?
I live in Majestic Oaks, which is a subdivision off of LaRoche Avenue near Isle of Hope.
And what's your address?
5 Majestic Oaks Circle, Savannah 31406.
What neighborhood do you identify as living in?
Well, I spent so many years in Chatham Terrace, which I always refer to as the fringes of Ardsley Park, that I probably have most of my memories in that neighborhood.
And how long did you live there?
From the time I was born until, I lived there all my life until I moved into an apartment, but I moved into an apartment on 44th Street and then another one on 48th Street, so until I was 28.
And how long have you lived in your current address?
Since 1985.
Have you heard of Ardmore?
Yes, I have.
What do you know about the history of What do you know about the history of Ardmore?
Well, I wrote a book in, I believe it was 1999, I'll have to look, and called Savannah's Historic Neighborhoods, Ardsley Park, Chatham Crescent, Ardmore, and I had never heard of Ardmore until I started researching that book, or information for that book, and I found out that where Ardmore was at the time, and I should have known because I used to play in Hall Park, and I had several aunts, well, an aunt and uncle who lived on the corner of 55th and Reynolds for years. I think they moved into that house in the 30s, and then I had another aunt and uncle who lived in the middle of that block at 315 East 55th. So that was kind of my stomping grounds. I would ride my bicycle over to see my aunts and uncles all the time. And then I had a lot of playmates in this area.
So your aunt and uncle's house, did they live there from the time it was built?
Yes, they did.
Do you know any history about that house?
I have all their stuff because they didn't have any children, and I was the executrix of their estates, and so I'm sure there's something in the boxes in my garage that I do have some pictures and some information probably, but I'm not sure about bills of sale or deeds or whatever.
That's all right. We can find that. Who are some of the important leaders or prominent citizens in the neighborhood?
Gosh. Well, I know Ronnie Ginsburg, who's an attorney and a judge, retired judge, grew up on 54th, right by Hall Park. Of course, my father was a doctor, of course, but I'm not considered Ardmore, so I can't count that. My uncle, who lived on the corner of 55th and Reynolds, was named Edward Perkins, and he was a longtime banker at Savannah Bank and Trust Company, and he was also a city alderman in the Lewis administration. My uncle James Cargill owned an office supply store on State Street downtown for many years. I'm just trying to think who else might have grown up there. I know there are lots of people who are prominent citizens. I know that Savage Lina was also a longtime banker. His widow still lives on 55th between Reynolds and Hall Park. Let's see, that's about all I can think of at the moment, but I know that there are plenty of people.
Did any significant events take place in the neighborhood?
It seems like there's always something going on at Hall Park. I'm the youngest of 5 children, so we spend a lot of time at the Hall Park with the park ladies, and my older sisters, have crafts that they made, little pine straw baskets and popsicle stick crafts, and so that was a fun place to be. My picture was in the paper on top of the merry-go-round when I was about 4 years old. I think I have that. I have the copy, the clipping of the paper. But I can't think of really anything that, significant that went on.
Who are the park ladies?
Well, I know Joan Waterman has been there for, she's been there more than 30 years, but, and she's still there, I think. But now, I don't remember the ones before that. My sisters might know.
And what do they do?
The park ladies, when I was growing up, they had a wooden box, a storage box that they had jump ropes and horseshoes and tether balls and that kind of thing that they would hand out to the children who wanted to play with the various things at the park.
And can you tell me about how the park was used and what it used to look like?
I remember it had a spray pool. Of course, it was different than it is now. I remember when that was done, when it was refurbished. But when I was growing up, the spray pool was a square concrete pad, and it was also, I think it was also the basketball court. They had basketball courts. And they had swings along the perimeter in the same area. They had a really neat sliding board. They had a tetherball pole. Let's see, the merry-go-round, or that's probably not the proper name. It was one of those spinning things. The water fountain. That's about all I can think of. Swings were big back then.
Were there any other things that the children growing up in the neighborhood would do for fun?
Oh, we rode bicycles and walked down the lanes and just, sat on the curb and made sand castles. I think that when I was growing up, the streets around Hall Park were not paved, and this 55th right over in the 400 block was not, or 500 block was not paved, which is not really considered Ardmore, but we'd walk down the streets, collect sycamore balls, and collect those little red things that come out of magnolia burrs. Because of course we didn't have iPhones and all those electronic devices back then. So we just amused ourselves. We talked.
What do you remember about the Gould Cottage?
Well, a lot of the children that I went to Charles Ellis with came from the Gould Cottage. And I write for the morning news, and I have interviewed a woman who was the director, or the house mother for years. She's since died, but that was kind of a neat story because I interviewed a woman who grew up here, or spent a lot of her childhood here, and then later on I interviewed the house mother, and it turned out the girl that I interviewed who grew up here was looking for a woman who worked here, who had a significant effect on her life, and it turns out it was the same woman. She just had been married before and had a different name, and so they were reunited. So that was pretty neat. I think I do have a picture I put in the Artsy Park book of the little spray pool or whatever it was called that was in the little cottage.
What are your favorite memories of Ardmore?
Oh, just playing at the whole park and riding my bicycle to see my friends, and just meeting our friends at Hall Park and talking and playing and swinging and going down that fabulous sliding board that they had there.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us about Ardmore?
Just that it's a great area, and it was a great area to grow up on the fringes of. So, and I'm glad that y'all are doing this. It's so nice to see that the Gould Cottage is now this school. And I'm glad that somebody finally did something with this beautiful building.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your memories of Ardmore and Savannah with us today.
Okay, thank you.